Hey, I just completed an episode of what I learned after purchasing an infrared sauna and using it for 5 years. And if you've been looking at these infrared saunas, you've probably already done the research on them. Well, let's do this a little bit different. I'm going to look at the health benefits of infrared saunas from a Chinese medical perspective. So, this is going to be a lot of fun because you're going to look at this problem from a different angle. And what you hear here, you're going to be able to apply it to your everyday health decisions. Okay, so let's see here. You know what? I am in a pretty mellow mood today. So, I'm just chilling out, drinking a cup of tea. I wanted to drink jasmine tea, but, it looks like I finished all that up. So I'm doing a little bit of oolong tea. That's a little bit sharper, but it's good for the liver. And you know what? I got a little bit of jazz playing in the background. And, I'm just trying to unplug after another crazy week. So I'm happy that you're here with me, and let's just have fun and have a great time. And so since we're just going to be having fun and having a great time, why don't we go up to the yard, check out the cameras, see if the birds are in. Oh, no, the birds are not in, but look who is. It's my potbelly squirrels. Yes, I have the fattest squirrels in the world. Yeah, and look at that. Even for being chubs, they are still lightning fast. And you notice we have frost on the ground. So it has been pretty cold for us. It's been pretty cold here for the last few days. So we're really lucky that it hasn't been raining, because if it had been raining, we'd have snow on the ground. And I live in an area that doesn't believe in snow plows. So if it snows, you're pretty much stuck until, it melts. That brings up something interesting. Have you been watching what's going on in the New England states? They have had an historical snowstorm going on right now. They have hurricane force winds. It's something like 70 miles an hour, which is like 112 kilometers per hour winds. They have, over the next day or so, they're expected to get over 2 feet of snow. So that's 3/4 of a meter of snow. Yeah, don't miss that. So you guys up in the New England states, stay safe. Make sure you have all the supplies you need, because, oh my gosh, power goes out all the time. But, we're talking about coal. And, so that leads us right into infrared saunas. So what is this major theme of infrared saunas in Chinese medicine? So, Chinese medicine, it's a little bit different than Western medicine. And one of the biggest difference is that Western medicine, it likes to compartmentalize everything. So that means that there's only one solution. There's only one answer for every question. And what you learn from that question, doesn't apply to another solution. So if you want to look at another question, you have to actually look for another solution. And trying to figure out your health in that manner, that's not very efficient for you, right? Because that means every time you want to change something else, you have to look for another solution. So you want to take certain supplements, you've got to look for a solution on that. Or you want to do certain exercises, you've got to look for a solution on if you can do it with all your conditions and things like that. Well, that's not really how it works in Chinese medicine. So Chinese medicine, it works on this concepts of energetics, and they look for the major themes in these energetics. So they look for ideas that reoccur. And when you start to see these recurring ideas, you get to apply it to different areas of your life. So what we want to do is, what's the major theme for infrared saunas? And for infrared saunas, major theme is yang. So, there's yin, there's yang. Yang is about energy and it's about movement. So yin is about growth and it's about being stasis. So it's about not moving. So when you're looking at health problems that infrared saunas can help solve, being that it's yang and it's about energy and it's about movement, you're going to want to look for things that don't have enough energy, don't have movement. So let's look at some of the problems that can fall into that category of not moving. Okay, here's the first one. Problems with sweating. So the main function of sweating is to cool off your body. And when your body lacks the capacity to correctly sweat, you're going to risk overheating, right? And this can show up in a number of ways. So if you have a problem with sweating, it can be that you just don't sweat. So when you're exercising, everyone around you is sweating and you don't even have a drop. Or it could show up that you're just pouring sweat out in one specific area of your body, like your forehead or your armpits or your feet. So the episode out here on Min-Max, cooling the body, what to do when you can't cool off, that talks about this inability to sweat. So in either situation, none of your pores are working correctly. So either they're closed and they're not sweating at all, or they're locked open and you have this excessive sweat in some areas. Okay, so here's the thing. In Chinese medicine, this lack of movement is the analogy that they use for it is cold. So they would say that the pores, they're frozen shut when you can't sweat, and when you sweat too much, the pores, they're frozen open. Okay, so if you think about water, when water gets really cold, it freezes and there's no movement. So I grew up, and by the way, I just love this. I just love that video of the lake. That really does remind me of growing up in rural Minnesota. And I grew up in rural Minnesota, and you know what? The blizzards there, they're insane. And this year, they're just having these insane cold fronts coming through. And I don't know, you probably haven't been watching this, but I have. Their temperatures lately, minus 18 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 28 degrees Celsius. That is wind chill advisory weather. Okay. So for those of you who haven't had the good luck of growing up in a state where there's snow on the ground for 9 months out of the year, wind chill is when the body temperature is how fast the body temperature is lowered when it's exposed to cold air and your skin starts to freeze. So you get these advisories or these warnings, wind chill advisories and warnings all the time. And they identify how fast your skin's going to freeze if you leave it exposed to the cold air. So when you go down to minus 24 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 31 degrees Celsius, they say your skin's going to freeze in about 30 minutes. And below that, it can pretty much happen instantaneously. Yeah, let me put this lake back up because I really do like this. This just reminds me of a lake out by where I grew up. So remember, well, you know what I really remember about growing up in rural Minnesota is these blizzards would come in and I would have to go out and feed the livestock. And it would always happen. It would always happen that the water spigots would be frozen shut or or the troughs would be frozen over.
Oh my
And
goodness.
there's just nothing you could do until the temperatures came back up a bit, so that the heaters that you had on the spigots or on the trough would melt the water again. So what you had to do then is you had the good luck of having to carry buckets of water out to the barn.
Wow.
Doesn't that sound like fun? Oh my gosh, yes, it was so much fun. And so, being that this would only happen when there was a blizzard out, I would have to bundle up in a snowmobile suit. I would have to put on these clunky snowmobile boots, and then I'd have to carry water all the way from the house to the barn in this clunky outfit, and I'd have to stumble through every snowdrift on my way to the barn. I was really pretty small back then, and I could carry one bucket, and that one bucket was pretty heavy, so I'd have to lean way over to counterbalance the weight of that bucket hanging off of my arm. And then you'd stumble through these snow drifts because that bucket was so heavy, it just unbalanced you. And then, you're carrying these water buckets out, and you're like, oh, maybe I could do this faster if I carried 2 buckets, one on each arm. But 2 buckets was like, really, it was more than half my weight. And oh my gosh, in that clunky snowmobile suit and those snowmobile boots, I would just spill it all over myself, and it would be frozen by the time I got back to the house. So my snowmobile suit would be frozen by the time I got back to the house. And that would just make it even harder to carry water out to the livestock. So yeah, I don't miss that at all. And last year, a girlfriend that I used to play with growing up posted some great pictures or a great video of her trying to feed the livestock in a raging blizzard. And the snow was creating a whiteout. You couldn't see the barn, and the barn was only like 20 feet in front of her. All you saw was the white of the snow and the gale force winds pushing it.
Oh my goodness.
But the thing is you have to feed the livestock. So, that just reminded me of what it means to be Minnesota tough, right? So here's the thing. Why I wanted to talk to you about that is that's the concept of cold. When things get too cold, snow makes things too cold most of the time, but when things get too cold, it's a fight, things don't move. Everything becomes a struggle, struggling to get water out to the cattle, struggling to get your car to start, struggling to get all 17 tons of clothing on so you can go out and brave the weather and shovel off your driveway. It's a huge struggle. That's the concept of cold. Harder to move, things don't move well, and it's more of a struggle. It uses a lot more energy. And so what does that mean for infrared saunas? Well, infrared saunas apply heat to the body, and it's like that heat you needed to get those water spigots open to water the cattle. So your pores, they're either frozen shut or they're frozen open. And so applying this heat slowly starts to thaw them out so that they can start opening and closing again like they're supposed to. And okay, if you're going to use infrared saunas to do this, to get those pores going again, you've got to start off slow. Start off with maybe 5 minutes, because if they're frozen open or if they're frozen shut, you're not sweating. You can overheat really easily. So start off with 5 minutes. Over a period of a week to 2 weeks, some of your pores are going to start moving a little bit better. So slowly increase your time to about 15 minutes. And, when you're sweating all over your body, like your legs, your arms, your abdomen, your head, then your pores are open and working again. And you can even increase your time longer, like maybe to 30 minutes. Okay, so what's another thing about non-movement or cold? Well, what about feeling cold all the time? Okay, so here's the thing. Feeling cold all the time is not just a problem for seniors. This can happen to anyone. And one of the reasons that you might be feeling cold all the time is your internal thermostat is too low. Oh, I was just sharing with you the joys of farming in the land of snow and ice. Well, hypothermia it's a real risk in those temperatures, and hypothermia will cause long-term problems with your body's thermostat. And it's not just hypothermia that's going to cause long-term issues with your thermostat. A lot of you guys are taking your basal temperature, and you notice that normally your basal temperature is low. And what that might mean is that you feel cold more often. But what else do you notice? You notice that you're usually more fatigued, right? Well, I was just talking about cold and how much of a fight it is when things get too cold. And that's what causes fatigue, that constant fight, right? It's like being stuck in a downward spiral. You're cold, your body's using all this energy to try to warm you up, so you have less energy. Well, infrared saunas, the theme is yang. Yang is about energy. So sitting in an infrared sauna helps put that energy back into the body, helping to readjust your basal temperature. And again, it's not just older folks that suffer from being cold all the time. So using a sauna can take a little bit of that edge off of that cold fight. What about pain management? In Chinese medicine, pain is about non-movement. So wherever you have things that are not moving like they used to, you're going to have pain. So that's the concept in Chinese medicine. You have pain because your body fluids are not moving correctly, or things have calcified, so in Chinese medicine, again, the analogy to understand non-movement in the body is ice, which will go back to my favorite frozen lake video. Yes. So think about arthritis. So gradually over time, arthritis impacts your movement and you become less flexible. So you notice how you can't bend down and get back up like you used to. Or do you see people, older people trying to get out of their Corvettes or their Mustangs? And they kind of have to roll out instead. Whatever, with arthritis, you're moving less. And you know what? I was telling you about my growing up in rural Minnesota. Well, it isn't just water spigots that would freeze. Gates would freeze open. And so when they're frozen open, they just won't move. And I would be out there. I remember one time it was a -70 wind chill. So I was bundled up from head to toe. Just my eyeballs were out. And I was kicking on the door or on this gate with my full 70 pounds, sporting these oversized snowmobile boots. And every once in a while, I would kick the door and I would send my boot flying off into the great white canvas of whatever blizzard I was experiencing at that time. And you had to do this, right? Because you cannot leave gates open with livestock. Once again, Minnesota tough. Do you know what the perfect example of the concept of frozen cold is in Western medicine, where they want to beat it open again? Knee replacement surgeries. When they don't get the right painful exercises to do, so they're not getting that joint to start opening up again, it kind of freezes. It locks up. You don't have full mobility. And so what your doctor wants you to do is they want you to come back in for surgery. And while you're under, they're going to break it open again. And then you get to start all over. And this time, you're really going to want to be super motivated to do all those super, super painful exercises so that you don't have to do this again. And, you can do that, or you can work with your acupuncturist. That might be the easier route. And to give you some ideas, it takes about 2 to 3 months to get the range of motion back if you get into clinic, probably in the second or third month, okay? So 2 to 3 months if you get in between the second and third month. You get in after that, you've really created too much calcification, and it might not be very successful. So pain, it's usually about things, they're not moving. And when things are not moving, remember what the analogy that the Chinese medicine uses? They say it's a cold disease. And one of the ways to address cold diseases is by applying heat. And applying heat to the body, what it does is it increases circulation. So infrared saunas can improve other painful things, not just arthritis, but things like neuropathy. And that makes me think about diabetes. A big part of diabetes is poor circulation, which starts showing up as neuropathies of the hands and feet. And what is poor circulation? It's just reduced blood flow. And whenever movement is reduced, it's a cold pathology or a yin pathology in Chinese medicine. So in Chinese medicine, heat can improve that situation. Okay, so now you have this concept of what infrared saunas can help with. And you can actually find Western medicine research on each one of these concepts or each one of these health conditions that I mentioned here. You can find Western research that says, yeah, infrared saunas help for this. But once again, what was it? They had to do a research for each one of those questions. Instead, in Chinese medicine, we start talking about this lack of movement that is a cold disease. And when you have those diseases, you can apply heat. So the thing is, having to do research on every question you have is not efficient when you're trying to manage your health. So you have some ideas on the theme in Chinese medicine. When something's stuck, when it's slowing down, or when it's moving less, it has to do with cold, and it needs some heat to start it up again. That's where your infrared saunas can come in. Okay, so until next time, I'll catch you on the other side.